So let's move on to the second awardee. And I request Professor Abhilash Chandi to please introduce Professor Prasanna Gandhi.
Thank you, Professor Pradeep. So first of all, congratulations to Professor Prasanna Gandhi for receiving the Dr. P.K. Patwardhan Technology Award. Professor Prasanna Gandhi, after his PhD from Rice University in Houston, Texas in 2001, he's been part of the mechanical engineering faculty at IIT Bombay. His research areas include dynamics, mechatronic design and control with current research and compliant mechanism system for micro 3D printing, spontaneous multi-scale manufacturing by controlling fluid instabilities and other applications. Some of his achievements include the following. He has been a pioneer in setting up non-VLSI based 3D digital microfabrication and characterization facility, the Suman Mashruwala Advanced Microengineering Lab in the department in 2004. He was involved in developing the technology on fuel slosh characterization transferred to ISRO, and which has been in use for major missions, including Chandrayaan 1, 2, and Gaganyaan since 2011. He's also been involved in the technology based on compliant mechanism transferred to 2 Indian OEMs for 3D microprinting and micromilling applications. And related to this, he was recognized for the FI Foundation Award at IM Tech in 2019. He's also been involved in developing around 30 products for research and industrial applications, notably 3D microprinters, bulk lithography system, heli-shawl, cell microfabrication, safety and arming unit and mechanization. So he's published more than 150 articles in peer-reviewed journals and conferences and 15 patents, of which 3 have been granted so far. Among some of his honors and awards, he's been a recipient of the Boy Scouts Fellowship in 2006 from the Government of India, Professor J.R. Isaac Fellowship in 2006-2007, the Best Faculty Award in 2008, FI Foundation Award at IM Tech 2019 for part of the technology on compliant mechanisms. So without further ado, let me hand the floor to Professor Prasanna Gandhi.
Thank you very much for the generous introduction. Okay, first of all, I thank you for this, recognizing our research that is done in this domain. This award, really thankful to the institute officials and committee for the same, and also the institute ecosystem, which enabled interesting kind of investigations and innovative developments here. So going to the more details about what these mechanisms are, basically any motion control that happens, you need to have some kind of a guide. And the guide typically is either ball bearing or like a rack or some kind of a this straight line kind of a guide. Okay, so typically it has two components touching each other and generating friction. And this friction is what is a main culprit for getting you to position yourself with accuracies which are of the order of nanometer. Okay, so here what the concept here is basically very simple. You have a cantilever beam, which is typically when you take a cantilever and stretch it, I mean, you bend it, you'll have some kind of a motion happening there. You want to have this motion happen in a desired fashion. See, this is not a cantilever motion, is not our desired motion. If I want to move perfectly in a straight line fashion. Okay, so you start putting this many more such beams together and get this kind of a desired motion. Okay, for example, here this is a linear motion that is happening. You can see by using 4 beams put together, and now this block that you want to move is perfectly moving in the straight line kind of a fashion. Okay, so this is kind of one of the ideas. This already existing in the literature. What we have done is more like a optimization about this particular kind of a mechanism for many different kind of orientations and loading conditions. The main advantages that such mechanisms give is high resolution, which is nanometer range, as I mentioned, because there is no friction here. This motion, entire motion is happening without contact of any two components to each other. There is no backlash, which typically exists in gear kind of mechanical systems. No lubrication required for, so then that means there is no maintenance further and no wear and tear that will happen. So this will have naturally a long life. Because of the links are flexible, there is a low weight and low power requirement, and the entire operation is noise free. Okay, because again, there is no mechanical components touching each other where like they can produce noise, and high speeds are possible with the low power. And the challenges that these systems offer are the complex analysis of dynamics and control, and because of this under actuation that you see here, and the total range of travel is, although it is larger than what is required, what is typically given by competitive piezo devices, but it is still like limited to some extent. And there are some manufacturing challenges that we have overcome during the research. The rotary counterpart of this is designed here. So where this has this was developed for an ICMR project, which is for cooperative eye surgery robot. So you have tool that is going into the eye from a single point, which is a hole that is made in the eye, and a tool has to kind of obey that condition that point of insertion cannot change. Okay, so it has to rotate, or it has to do all its movement about that point, and this is what is obtained by such a kind of a compliant mechanism with a very high accuracy positioning inside your eye for very critical kind of surgeries. So although this was developed for the eye surgery, but this has many different kind of applications. Some of the scenarios I'll touch upon some time later. So these are the main two kind of same advantage this rotary motion mechanism also carries. And there are several variants of these that are researched and analyzed and further developed for systems. The next part that is required is this analysis, and we'll not get into mathematical details, but we developed this something called chain constraint beam model, CBCM, and this is very highly efficient numerical technique to model such a mechanisms, and it can do then optimization of these mechanisms very easily, because rather than going for AFM kind of a way where you need a lot of computational power. Then control development was another kind of very deep research kind of a topic in this area, and I'll show you some kind of glimpses about some of the control development that has been developed for similar kind of systems. And these control algorithms are now going into actual systems that are deployed in some of the devices that we'll talk about. Other thing that was done is this manufacturing of these mechanisms is typically by assembly way was not there in the literature. Where we came together and we found that okay, if we do the normal way of mechanical assembly, then these mechanisms turn into a warp kind of a mechanism. So we got into this problem and designed some kind of a guidelines for the assembly in such a way that without changing the tolerances required on the linkages and machining, which will involve a cost, we can follow these assembly guidelines and get a warp-free kind of a mechanism which will function. And this gave a way to fabricate mechanisms which are three-dimensional mechanisms. Otherwise, you would need tools like EDM cutting or water jet machining. Those kind of techniques would give you typically two-dimensional mechanisms only. So this was a very important step in the process. And then, of course, we have validated with series of experiments and products and things like that later. So this gives you some kind of a glimpses about some of the controls that were developed. This is particularly done for much more complicated system, which is called post-buckle kind of a system. So where the beam is actually buckled position, as you see here, this mass is more than the buckling first buckling mode weight this beam can take. And now with this control strategy here, which is kind of motion of this cart, this beam's unstable equilibrium at this position is stabilized. Okay, and this kind of a control is implemented in the experiments, as you can see here. Okay, so it's quite involved kind of a energy shaping control strategy where the energy of a system is energy of a closed loop system is defined, and for that defined energy, how do you kind of get this control algorithm is developed for that. And you can see that in the experiment also, just using the first mode modeling for this beam, the control development stabilizes the beam, which has a higher modes existing. And it is verified for the disturbance rejection as well. So these kind of control algorithms have been developed for many such systems, and they have been implemented into different kind of products that have been developed about. These are some of the products. First is this micro milling kind of a system, where this technology is licensed to one of the OEMs, strategy automation in Bangalore. And it gives you, they are very surprised to see there is a completely noise-free kind of operation that is happening here, and which is not, they are not used to kind of that probably. And since cutting forces here are relatively low, the parasitic errors that are caused by the forces which are not incorporated in our optimization, that would not matter too much here. And this was displayed at this IMTEX exhibition, where it was recognized with this 5 Foundation Award. And some of the components which are milled from this kind of a system, you can see this dimension here is about 0.5 mm, 500 micron kind of a dimension. So this is another system that was developed, and this again licensed to one of the OEMs. And this has again, the complete system is based on this compliant mechanism motion stages, and there is additional kind of a scanning algorithm or scanning strategy that was developed in-house, which is patented again, and it was implemented into this process along with this compliant mechanism based motion stages. And that could produce this kind of a micro and nano scale components, micro scale components here, which are typically with this nano positioning accuracy of the positioning of the lens and mirror systems, which will position the laser accurately to get your features, which are very, very accurate here. And this is a video of this process that is happening. So we use a single single line size here, but this is like done line by line and layer by layer, and single line size that is used here is about 6 microns in width, and it is positioned with the accuracy of about 100 nanometers over the entire range of this scanning that is happening here. You can see that this component is getting slowly developed here. And this component has this kind of a shape. These features are there into this component, and you can see it is getting developed. I'll just fast forward that further to show you, like, that this complete component can be developed over relatively large range also is possible. And for the Z dimension, Z direction for multiple kind of layers, you will have this Z stage moving system here. Okay, so after every layer is done, the Z stage will shift and then give you the third Z kind of a direction motion. And this is a motion that is happening here. Okay, so this is another kind of a system that is developed and then we realized that Indian industry, the pace of absorption of these technologies is little slower than what we expected. As compared to the software products, this is a hardware product. People have to be convinced. And unless they see some stuff, or they have been given this on the platter, it is very difficult to absorb in the Indian industrial scenario. So that's what we realized, and we said, okay, we'll kind of help them with this kind of stages, only provision of the stages with the startup. And that's what we founded this company in 2020, just recently. And there are some kind of products that are being developed now from this company. And this we feel that, okay, this will feed in this basic kind of a technology to many different kind of applications, and several applications are currently being looked at. and these are now like more like a research, so to say research, but having like a lot of product potentials eventually, kind of areas where this has not been licensed to the industry for now, but it is in the process, I would say. So here, this is a bulk lithography concept, which was a novel approach, again proposed first time in the literature by our group. And actually, we coined this term bulk lithography in the paper. And this process, again, very interesting, that okay, instead of having the photopolymer vat on the top of the substrate, we put it on the bottom side of the substrate and allow the in unconstrained growth of the photopolymerized part to happen. And what we found that okay, if you just put one spot at a point, these kind of a micro needles start growing into the photopolymer vat. And this has very interesting shape. We have done like completely physics, photopolymer light interaction kind of a physics, fundamental physics Maxwell equation modeling, and actually shown the shapes of these needles are very interesting, bulging and expanding kind of a shapes that you see, especially here. And these are useful for microneedles for drug delivery applications, and which is right now we are developing in collaboration with INSTEM Bangalore. And if you scan this instead of putting at one single point, we get actually this kind of a layer that can be formed, and we can now control the spatial distribution of the light over the substrate in x and y direction. Okay, and that distribution will control what is getting formed below. Instead of needle, you may have now whatever shape that you would like to produce. Okay, and that's what can produce these lens-like structures, cylindrical lenses and that kind of structures. And these two applications this process can have, which is very unique kind of application, is microneedle printing kind of a thing, where you'll have very low cost system that can be giving these microneedles at a in a simple machine, which is standalone machine. Otherwise, you need some kind of a VLSI fab kind of a base, or other micro machining facilities, which are 2-photon base or things like that. Then the next application that we have developed here, which is powered by this compliant mechanism stages. These are especially helpful in this application because we can go at a very, very low speed since there is no friction. Typically, when there is a friction, very low speed achievement is very difficult because there is a stick slip kind of a phenomena. You might have all of us have experienced, there's some sticking happens and you move, and then again sticking happens. So moving at extremely slow speed with the friction is very difficult, and that's what is eased out by these compliant mechanism based systems here. And that can fabricate now this Hale-Shaw cell. So this process is where you take a fluid and compress it between the two plates. This is a top plate and bottom plate. You press the fluid drop into these two plates, so it will become like a film. Okay, the thin film that is squeezed between the two plates, and then you separate these plates out. The air starts rushing from the side, but fluid doesn't allow that air to kind of rush so fast. Okay, that it can become again a small drop. No. So what happens is the air punctures the fluid interface at multiple places, and which is called Safman-Taylor instability that is happening there. And with that, what you are left with is some kind of a fractal geometry structures on the surface. Normally, these structures are completely random in nature. Every time you do the process, you don't get repeatable structures. That's why it's called instability. But the way what we have done is some kind of a control of this process in such a way that you get these kind of very neat array structures, or these completely controlled Cali-tree kind of structures. Okay, so that is another kind of a dimension that has been opened up by this particular process, that you can get this fluid instability controlled microfabrication of these special structures called array structures, or this array of this hexagonal type or fractal geometry kind of structures. And that opens up a lot of these different applications in the domain of this drug testing, whole blood plasma separation is another application we are looking at. And then this fractal geometry heat exchange is another thing that we have looked at, and it is still ongoing. And electrodes for water splitting is one proposed project that we are working on. So this gives you some kind of a glimpse of the way the process happens here. So here, these are like home-built setups here. And again, we start off this process with creating these kind of holes or anisotropies on the cell plates, which will be used for compressing the fluid. These special kind of features are put to get whatever desired patterns that you would like to produce finally by using this control. And this is like a fluid that is laid on the surface. This metered quantity of fluid will be placed, and then you start compressing this fluid between the two plates. So this entire setup and systems have been developed in-house for this process. And after compression, you can see this fluid drop is getting stretched into the film, and this is a top view. And then when you do it randomly, like you get these kind of random structures. But if you do with this control with the holes, then you get structures which are now very, very controlled geometry structures. And this process we have started right now, like developing several applications upon. And one of the applications that is in advanced progress is about drug discovery or drug delivery, drug testing kind of application or delivery. Okay, so this is a fractal geometry structures, and this is where the compliant kind of a mechanism is there for the separation of the plates. So so let me give you a glimpse of kind of structures that are finally produced by this process. So this is like a ordered kind of a structure, fractal geometry, Cali tree structure, then hexagonal pattern. You can have different kinds of structures emerging out of this process, depending upon kind of process parameters used and the cell modification, the cell plate modification that is seeded on the surface. Okay, and this array kind of geometry is what is being used now for creating devices where one can study the drug efficacy. Okay, so so just to kind of give you a final summary of the impact, the technology has been licensed to 2 companies, and a startup has been founded, which is now taking up a lot of this, kind of forming a bridge between, the Indian OEMs and this technology can be feeding in different products of the people, and available to Indian industry and defense sector and things like that. So enhanced productivity and lower cost is what is base for this technology. And there are journal papers, and the spin-offs currently we are looking at are in this macroneedle patch making machine, which is proposal right now as proposal stage. Then probes for coordinate measurement machine, CMM, that is another kind of a product that is identified by one of the industries who have approached us for this kind of thing in India. Nobody manufactures currently these CMM probes which are required for coordinate measurement machines for characterizing mechanical components. And then this is other kind of a interesting application that we are developing for whole blood plasma separation, especially pin prick volume or hill prick volume for pediatric kind of a patients and things like that. Okay, and this is again is advanced. Already the work has happened on this up to validation stage, and proposal is waiting for WRCP funding results. Okay, I would like to acknowledge all the funding agencies which are like, without which our research cannot progress. Especially Raj Mushwala, who had given initial funding to set up this lab for the research in micro domain. And of course, there's several masters and dual degree students, PhD students, and RAs. Especially, I want to mention Ratnesh Pafna, who is leading the startup activity with a lot of zeal, and a lot of collaborating faculty and in the IIT ecosystem. This is very nice kind of support. You think of any kind of a, say for example, the physics based kind of a modeling and research I cannot do myself. We need somebody to kind of look at, and we have a lot of these faculty. Professor Kundu helped me at that time about the Maxwell equations modeling with photopolymer interaction and things like that. Okay, so I really am thankful for the collaboration with several faculty in this IIT ecosystem, and also from outside the country, Professor Romeo Ortega, and people from Monash University. And industrial interaction was definitely which where we want to take these technologies further into the market, and fuel different applications for Indian industry at large. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention, and I'm glad to share my research with.
Thank you very much, Prasanna, for this very interesting talk. And I think we have a few more minutes in case there are questions. Please to go ahead. Either you can key that in the chat box, or you can unmute and ask any questions you may have.
I have one question, Balaji again.
Yeah, please, Professor.
So Gandhi,
Yeah.
I have a question. So towards the end, you showed about that patterning where it is like a circular or a grid type or a honey type. Okay.
Right.
They're all very micro sized, am I right? Very thin.
Yes. So so these kind of structures, right?
Yeah. Can similar things be done at a macro scale? Means much larger thickness. What is naked eye visible? That type also.
Yeah. So these are naked eye visible things only right now. So if you see, this is 1 centimeter kind of a scale here.
Okay. But it's easy
to
sort of.
Yeah. So in fact, see right now, very easy thing is a medium scale, where you can have this about this is say 1 mm, 2 mm kind of a dimension, very easy. And this can be on the area as large as 1 feet diameter. Okay. Yeah. And currently we are doing some work in the 3rd dimension to stretch these fluids in the 3rd dimension to kind of get further kind of interesting structures evolved.
Okay. Thank you. Very nice.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
What are the prospects of this technology for bioprinting? So see, right now we are creating devices out of this technology, as I mentioned, for drug drug screening or drug testing kind of application. Okay, but you want to print biological cells. We need to make sure that whatever fluids or the initial thing that we are using would have the viscosities and in the range that our process admits, and we can kind of have your biofluids can be structured into these kind of a patterns. That is possible. Yes. Does that answer your question, Sagar?
Sagar, is that what your question was about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Okay. So thank you very much, Prasanna. Thanks as well to Ganesh. And just FYI, the awards will be officially conferred to both the award recipients during the Teachers' Day function on Monday, which is 6th September. In the afternoon, 3:30 is the award function. Besides other awards, PK Patwardhan Award will also be conferred on the same day. So thank you all for joining this session, and let's once again thank both the speakers for their wonderful talks.
Thank you.
And let's all wish them all the best, and let's hope they do bring more accolades in the years to come. Thank you very much.